Hey everyone, it's me, Scott Reichel, here with winnersandwhiners.com. I know it's been a while since we ended up doing a solo video here with me just by myself, as I usually do the daily show with Scott Steen. However, I decided that since there were going to be no video tomorrow for Sunday, I was actually looking through some futures in some respective sports, and I believe I found a couple of steals here that I'm going to be sharing with some of you for future plays. Now, I know that a lot of people are anticipating the return of the NBA, the NHL, even the start of the MLB season. And there have been some issues with regard to COVID that potentially have made people a little bit more skeptical on the return of those respective leagues. There is one league, it's a relatively minor league in terms of attendance and in terms of ratings, but either or, it seems like they are going to be going full steam ahead, and that's going to be the WNBA. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, why would I want to put money in the WNBA if I'm not going to watch it or if the product just isn't that good? And simply put, to make money, which is pretty standard concept here. And I believe that I found a couple of plays that have a lot of value to them. And for that reason, I believe if you can bet on it, then you should be able to, enjoy yourself and make some value in the process. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in. We're going to talk about two teams to win the WNBA championship. And we're going to go into some reasons as to why I like these two respective teams. And the first team we're going to be talking about is going to be on the Seattle Storm. And we're going to take them to win the WNBA championship. Now, if you actually look at the lines, a couple reasons why I like this play. First of all, if you shop around, for example, BetOnline has the Storm to win at plus 450. Then you have DraftKings who has them to win at plus 750. FoxBet has the Storm to win the championship at plus 1200, which is the highest odds of any book that I've found. And I think that's a ridiculous price. I think they should be somewhere in the plus even 300 to 400 range. So I think plus 1200 is an absolute steal. And I think that that is just money in the bank. Now, a reason why I like the Storm here, in addition to the crazy odds, is the fact that this team is actually projected to be the best team in the entire league right now, or they're going to be top two, debatable with the Mystics, who I'll get into in a second. But if you want to look at Seattle here, last year they were terrible. And some people might be wondering, well, if they were awful last year, why do you think they're going to be good this year? And the reason why is because their best two players on the roster did not play at all last year, as they ended up both suffering serious injuries. If you don't follow the WNBA, you still should know the names. Sue Bird, a future Hall of Fame point guard, who averaged 10.1 points per game and 7.1 assists per game in 2018. She didn't play at all last year. She's a future Hall of Famer. And you also have Breanna Stewart, who some of you might remember as being arguably the greatest college women's basketball player of all time with Connecticut, who averaged 22 points per game and 8.6 rebounds back in 2018. Neither of them ended up playing at all last year, and now they're both healthy. So the Storm should already be the best team in the Western Conference. You can make the argument that they're the best team in the entire league. I know ESPN's power rankings now have the Storm as the number one team in the league. You can get them at plus 1,200 to win the entire thing. Plus, they're also going to be adding Australia's Ezi Magbegor, who's a 6'4" center. I know it's a funny concept, 6'4" center, but that's a pretty tall person in the WNBA, who was the number 12 pick in last year's draft, who did not play last season in the WNBA. So she's going to be making an appearance as a rookie, and you're getting your best two players back. The Storm at plus 1,200 is absurd. Those odds are ridiculous. I will easily take them to win the championship, and I expect them to make a serious run, assuming everyone stays healthy. The last time Stewart and Bird were healthy, they went 26-8 in the regular season, and they did have the best record in the Western Conference. This team is really good, and I think that at that price, that's a must bet, in my opinion. And the second team we're going to be talking about is going to be the Phoenix Mercury. We're going to be sticking with the Western Conference, and we're going to take them to win the WNBA championship, and that is also available at plus 1,200. However, this time it will be on FanDuel. Now, if you want to compare lines once again, BetOnline has the Mercury at plus 1,000. So a couple books offshore have them at plus 800. And if you want to even look at FanDuel, I already talked about them at plus 1,200. You're just getting a great deal at that price. If you want to talk about the actual Mercury, they were not great last year. Similar reasons as to why the Storm are not great last season. As Diana Taurasi, future Hall of Famer, the number one point scorer in the history of the league, only played in 6 games last year before getting injured. She's healthy once again. You also have Brittany Griner, as one of the best centers in the league. She's still on the roster. And they also made a big trade in the offseason to pick up Skylar Diggins-Smith, who did not play last year because of pregnancy, but in her career is averaging 15.9 points per game and 4.9 assists. So you have yourself a pretty solid triple-headed monster there. So for me, I think the Mercury are also a pretty solid deal at plus 1,200. If both these teams make the playoffs, then you have a 2/3 chance of basically getting a team into the actual finals. And I think the Storm and the Mercury should be able to make it to the playoffs, especially with all of the sudden absences that you're going to talk about. I'm about to talk about for the other teams that are favored ahead of the Storm and the Mercury. So those are the main reasons why I like the Mercury and the Storm. But to talk about why I also like them is based on the fact that all the other teams in front of them who are favorites have had some COVID issues, and we're going to talk about those right now. The Washington Mystics are the favorite in the entire league. They won the championship last year. They have Elaine Deladon, who is the best player in the entire league. It's really not that close, in my opinion. But either or, they have a couple of very solid bench players in guard Natasha Cloud and forward center Latoya Sanders, and they both decided to opt out of the restart because of COVID. So for that reason, you're going to be missing roughly your sixth and seventh person on the team, your first and second people off the bench. I simply just think that that's going to hurt, and I don't think this team is going to be as deep or as strong as they were previously. They signed a couple of replacements, but they're definitely weaker players than Cloud and Sanders. So for that reason, I think the Mystics are a little bit overvalued in the marketplace because they're already going to be missing two players, and that's not even assuming that more players will follow in their footsteps. However, the other main favorite here is the Las Vegas Aces, and they are currently roughly at plus 350 everywhere you look. They're the favorites on FanDuel at plus 300. If you really want to just look around, they are really some of the favorites here. And the main reason why is because of the fact that they have just a phenomenal team, if you want to just put it delicately on how talented they are. However, their starting point guard, Kelsey Plum, former number 1 overall pick out of Washington University, is out for the year with a knee injury. And there has been some breaking news in the WNBA over the weekend as their star center, Liz Cambridge, who might be the best center in the entire league, her agent has announced that she is very unlikely to play this season, which is a big blow because last season she was great. Her entire career, she's averaging 19.7 points per game and 7.6 rebounds per game. So you're missing your starting point guard for the year and arguably the best center in the entire league. There's no way that they should be plus 300 to win the entire thing. If the lines ever adjust with Cambridge, because I know the WNBA isn't the most highly bet or sought after sport, they should be probably somewhere in the plus 600, plus 700 range. So right now you're getting a good price on the Storm and the Mercury because the Aces and the Mystics are a little bit overvalued. The Aces, though, with Cambridge out, there's no chance they're winning the championship. I know that they still have some talent, but Cambridge is that person. She's the best player on the entire team. And with her out, I don't think the Aces might even make the playoffs. I think they might miss the playoffs here. And for that reason, I think that you should fade them. But as of right now, it provides some value in the future markets. And the last team we're going to be talking about, the first Eastern Conference team we're going to be talking about, is the Connecticut Sun. And they are actually the third favorites to win the entire league. FanDuel has them at plus 500, third or fourth, depending with the Sparks, but either or. Connecticut's plus 500 on FanDuel. And if you shop around, that's usually where they're at. Offshore, you can find Connecticut at plus 600, something in that range. Either or, Connecticut's best player, Jonquel Jones, who averaged 14.6 points per game and 9.7 rebounds per game, which both led the team. Best player on the team by far. She already opted out. She's not coming back for the restart. So I think Connecticut's going to be terrible. This team might miss the playoffs. If you're missing your best player, I don't really know how you're supposed to compete for a title. So for that reason, I've already talked about 3 teams that are ahead of the Storm and the Mercury in terms of future odds, and they're all going to be missing key contributors on their teams. So I think that they're overvalued. The Storm and the Mercury, as of right now, have absolutely no expected absences for COVID. So I think that just means that a team at full strength is a little bit undervalued in the marketplace. And for that reason, I feel like they're definitely worth talking about. The Sparks have had some news about COVID over the last couple of days. Nothing really that serious. But Tolliver is going to be out, who's also a pretty good contributor there. She is not going to be playing. She already announced that she is just going to be AWOL. So if you want to actually look at the numbers for just some of the players on the actual roster, the Sparks are supposed to be a good team. Don't get me wrong. They're going to be one of the biggest competitors in the West. I already talked about the Mystics, but they're in the East. They're pretty much going to coast to probably a finals berth, if I'm being honest, because Washington is that good. And I've already mentioned a bunch of teams in the West. I think the West is going to be a feeding frenzy. And I simply just think that with all of the people who I've already talked about with regard to just the rest of the West, I just think this team's going to be weaker than people anticipate. Chrissy Tolliver, for example, she is a 2-time champion, 3-time All-Star. and she's a very solid player. And the Sparks have already replaced her as they ended up acquiring her during the offseason. She played for Washington last year, but she's a career 12.4 point per game scorer, and the Sparks have already signed a replacement as she's not going to play. So every team in front of the Mercury and the Storm have had some COVID issues, and they're going to be missing some key pieces. So for that reason, I think there's value here. And just to recap, I know I've kind of been talking circles a little bit. Apologies for that. But once again, the two futures we're going to be giving out are going to be on the Seattle Storm to win the WNBA championship at plus 1,200 on Fox Bet, and we're going to be giving out the Phoenix Mercury to win the WNBA championship at plus 1,200 on FanDuel. Other than that, though, that's going to do it for this futures video here with our host, Scott Reichel. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.